So hi again everybody, welcome to the second video in this series of deploying to Azure using Terraform. This video is entitled Remote State, and today we're going to look at how do we control our state file in an area that is collaborative and available to multiple people at the same time, rather than it just being on our local machine. So on that note, let's just jump straight on in. So yeah, hey everybody, and thanks for tuning in again. So if you recall back to our video number 1, which was really looking at the Terraform basics, how do we get started, we left off that video with a simple main.tf file that was deploying some infrastructure, so a resource group, a VNet with a subnet attached to that into our Azure subscription. Now, if you recall, we just ran that straight from our local machine, and we ended up with a local state file, which is here. This video we're going to start exploring, right, why is that not necessarily a great idea to store that remote state. So in summary, again, I'm not going to dwell on the idea too much, just to give you enough information for you to do a little bit more research. But whenever we deploy Terraform code into any platform, in our instance it's to create infrastructure within our Azure subscription. When we create that infrastructure, we get this state file, which is essentially a copy, a mapping, if you like, of what our Terraform code is saying to what is actually in existence in our Azure subscription in this instance. So if you recall, I can run a Terraform plan command here in my CLI. We'll wait for that to pop back, but in theory, we've got our infrastructure deployed into Azure. We haven't made any changes to our Terraform code here, and we can see that no changes, infrastructure is up to date. Okay, so that Terraform state is held locally on our local machine, which is fine if we're playing around sandboxes or a small little proof of concepts. However, in the real world, when we push this into kind of production environments, one of the key things that you're going to want to get to grips with is the ability to hold that state file in a central repository, somewhere centralized that every member of your team can get access to. So it's not just confined to your local machine, because obviously that state file is going to play quite a large part of the lifecycle management of your solution as you put that into Azure. So on that note, the way that we're going to handle this, and there are a number of ways that you can handle a location to save that state file. We're going to keep it all within Azure. There are things like Terraform Cloud, there are the storage buckets in AWS. In this instance, we're going to create a storage account. We're just going to simply create a storage account in our Azure subscription, and we're going to save our state file to that. So on that note, let's jump straight on over. So we've got some Azure CLI commands that I've already pre-canned. Let's just clear this window down the bottom here, this terminal window. The first thing we're going to want to do is make sure we're obviously logged on to our subscription. Again, we log on, we select the account we need, we close the web page down, and again, as I said in a previous video, you can use a number of different ways to authenticate to your Azure subscription for your Terraform code. I'm just using the interactive logon through a web page. You can use service principal names, you can use certificates, SPNs. There's a few different ways that we can use to authenticate. In this case, I'm just going to do that simply using AZ login. I'm going to make sure I'm focused on the correct subscription, which is my npm John Lunn. There we go. So now I've got a series of AZ CLI commands that effectively we're going to set a few environment variables just to capture the name of our what we want to call a resource group. So we're going to create a new resource group. We're going to create a storage account within that resource group, and we're going to create a container within that resource group. And that container is effectively where we're going to save this state file. So it's like a folder in our storage account. So these commands are available in the GitHub repository that we will take a look at here. So johnnychips/Terraform basics. And we'll just kick on with these commands. So we're going to create these 3 environment variables, and we're going to call, like I say, the resource group is going to be called johnnychips-state. Storage account name we're going to call johnnychips-tf-state, and then we'll just have a container called tstate. So if I just set those 3 variables up, the next thing we want to do, this is the AZ CLI to create the resource group, and we're going to create it in UK South. And we could just save the location as a variable if we wanted to. So there we go. We've created our resource group. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create our storage account. So again, there's a nice bit of Azure CLI there to create a storage account, pass through the resource group name and give them the storage account name, and it'll take a few minutes. But that won't be too long now. So what we're going to do, we're going to create that storage account. Remember, this is just like, we could do this through the portal. We could do it through Terraform and do the same process. But I'm trying to show you some of the things you might need to think about in order to kind of get yourself set up to use Terraform and Azure. So there we go. So we've got the storage account created. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set another environment variable called account key. And I'm going to pick that shared access key from that account, storage account, in order that I can use Azure CLI then to do the final task of creating my blob container. So you can see I'm passing the account key in there, and that will go ahead and will create my container called tstate. So there we go. That was a quick way using Azure CLI that we can create that storage account ready for us to now consume using our Terraform. And just to kind of prove the point, we can flick over to our subscription here, look for our resource group, which was called Johnny Chips State. And there we go. We have a storage account here called Johnny Chips TF State. And within that storage account, we've got a container called tstate. So you can see that we've programmatically created that central area for us to now configure our Terraform code to go and utilize for that centralized Terraform state file. Okay, so let's flick back over to our main.tf file now. So there is one thing that we need to add to this. Now, under our Terraform required providers, we need to configure what they call backend configuration. So literally, we can take a block of code, which is going to define our backend even, sorry. And the back end is going to take the configuration that we've just set. We use those Azure CLI commands to create our Johnny Chips -state resource group and our TF state storage account and our tstate container name. The only additional thing that we're storing in here is the name of the file that we're going to save, which is terraform.tf state. Now that could be anything we like. It doesn't necessarily have to be terraform.tf state. To us, it's just a file name effectively. That's what we're going to use. So once we've done that, we save our main.tf file and we use Terraform init. We have to reinitialize that backend. And when we run terraform.init, it's going to reinitialize the backend. Now it's going to recognize that I've got a local state file, and it's going to say, do you want to copy the existing state file to the new backend? So a pre-existing state file was found while migrating the previous local backend to the newly configured Azure RM backend. So no existing state was found in the new backend. So it's asking if I want to copy that local state file into there. So of course, why not? I'm going to hit yes. And there we go. So it's saying successfully configured the backend. Terraform will automatically use this backend. So the fact that we've now got the backend configured in our main.tf file says every time we run this now, provided we're logged on and we've got that access using the AZ CLI logon and obviously set account, those kind of commandlets, we're good. So now we can run Terraform plan and hopefully we should see that Terraform plan comes back that our infrastructure is up to date. So we'll give that a few moments to complete. Shouldn't take too long. There we go. So it's saying no changes, infrastructure is up to date. This means Terraform did not detect any changes. And if we go over to our container and we click on tstate, we can see that we've now got this file in there called terraform.tf state. And that's it. So I wanted to keep this video quite short so you can see now how we can initiate a backend using a remote location for our state file in Terraform. The main benefits behind that, of course, are that it now gives the ability for multiple people to collaborate on that same Terraform code within your repository and not have to worry about where that state file is persisting. So on that note, thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next video and thanks for watching. Thanks all.